little bit. I want to talk about everything that you've been going through. It's not over till it's over.
Condolences.
First of all. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. A little bit of a different frame and a different place, so I decided to kind of change things up a little bit. I'm here with Mr. Luc Negron.
What's up, guys?
You've seen him on my channel before, but I wanted to kind of change the setting, so we're here. You know, car conversations are always super intimate. I feel like, you know, if you're hanging out with your friends and you end up talking in the car for a while, something true is gonna happen. So I'm here to talk to him about what he's been up to, the things that he's been experiencing, because some of them I can't wait to figure out what the heck is going on in this country. So without further ado, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks, man. Dude, it's awesome to be back here. It's awesome to be in person. Honestly, like these doing in-person interviews and connecting, like you said, like we're on a car trip or whatever. It's special because so much of 2020, even on the congressional trail, on that in that race, was all Zoom, Skype,
Wow.
and that's fine. But like this is just, it's kind of special. This is like maybe the third one I've done all year, in person.
So break it down. What did you run for? Where did you run? What was your platform? Just real quick, concise.
I ran in Pittsburgh, a new district. Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania were recently redistricted. It's called PA 18 now. It covers Pittsburgh and the South Hills for the U.S. House, one of 18 representatives in Pennsylvania to the U.S., the federal House. And I ran against someone named Mike Doyle. He's a 26-year Democratic incumbent. And my platform was really one of a young Washington outsider. I think that that's something that is kind of desired in a bipartisan way. That's still desired even after elections. I think that's important. And one of someone who doesn't really accept all of the political boxes.
Right.
I think a lot of the political boxes are racial, are based on gender, are based on policy points. Well, if you're a conservative, you have to believe this. Liberals have to believe this.
Right.
And I reject some of that. And I think there are some wires that kind of cross in a good way.
What do you think is an interesting, I guess, conservative opinion that you don't hold, that you don't particularly go completely to the right on?
Okay, so the first one that pops to mind is gay marriage, and this one is simple, not because I disagree with the premise, which is really on the right. It's the idea that we tend to be Christians, we tend to be Catholics or Christians, and in the Christian church, marriage is between one man and one woman.
Right.
I agree with that. I'm not disowning that. That's in my personal life, of course. And I hate when people say like, oh, my personal life versus my policy life, but this one is different, and here's why. I don't think the government should be in marriage at all. I don't think the government should be telling us what is and isn't marriage. I think marriage is inherently personal, religious, and community-based. So I say leave it up to the person, the church, the religion, and the community, the people who want to attend the wedding.
I love that.
So that's where I do think that policy can be separate from what you believe as an individual. Because if you say, look, we should issue civil unions to any two consenting adults, and that is something that I think in a free country we should allow for, you know, filing purposes and taxes, for visitation rights, for medical things like this. That would include homosexual couples. But to tell someone that we're going to define marriage for you one way or another in your church or in your personal life, I don't like that.
That's the slippery slope, right? The slippery slope is, okay, we're going to decide what marriage is, and then we're going to decide who gets to marry.
Exactly.
And then we're going to decide how and where. And if you don't want to, then you're somehow some sort of bigot or something like that. Yeah,
on one side or another. Because it's
Right.
like, so if you start telling, let's go to the church side, right? If you start going into churches, kicking in doors and saying, you will marry homosexual couples, and you will recognize them, that's an obvious infringement on their freedom of speech, their freedom of religious identity, and several other things. But similarly, in a free country, to me it's like, look, if two gay guys want to live together and they want to be in a lifelong relationship and be there for each other with medical rights, like a heterosexual couple, that's what I would call a civil union, and I support that. I'm like, why not let them do that? You know, as long as they keep it out of my life, I can keep my religion out of their life.
Right.
You know, in that context.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
No, I think that's so true. I think that's something that people get wrong a lot when leftists are kind of critiquing the right as far as what we believe about gay marriage. That the thing that always comes up is, why do you care? Why do you care? Right?
Yeah.
It's not that we care; it's that we don't want our rights to be infringed upon.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So let's turn the page a little bit. I want to talk about everything that you've been going through. It's not over till it's over.
Condolences.
First of all, it's not over
It's a
till
loss.
it's like. Let's have a moment of silence.
Oh man.
But there's some crap happening. I don't want to use the F word because I don't want to get flagged on here. But I agree with you about the F word.
Yeah. Oh yes. Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So can we spell it, or is that FR?
Yeah.
So everyone. Yeah.
FR word.
So when it comes to voting, the F word, and it's not what you might think, Mom, if you're watching this. Yes. So if you use your imagination, FR, it pertains to voting, and yeah, it might have happened in my race. Mm-hmm. There's actually a lot of evidence that it did happen. Wow. I'm very careful when I talk about it to say it could be error or fraud in my race. I say, look, error though is at the end of the day the same end result, which is it raises the question: if there was error and it was innocent, still was this a legitimate election?
Right.
So it raises the same question either way. Right. But one is nefarious and one is incompetence. Right. And I want to give room for either of those. So basically, what happened to me is starting in the middle of the night on November 3rd, my team and I started getting DMs, emails, Facebook direct messages, Instagram DMs, all saying the same thing. And they were people saying, some in district and some just out of district, both of which have their issues, which I'll describe in a second, saying your opponent, Mike Doyle, was on our ballot, and you, who were a federal nominee, were not on our ballot. The only other option was a write-in candidacy, was to write in a candidate's name. Whoa. And so literally the first one I got, I looked at it and I sent the email to archives. I was like, he beat me by a good margin. It looks like it's over. This guy, this is the first email I'm getting. Maybe it's a typo. He's mistaken in his memory. And then I got another one and another one and another one. And literally, I have been getting more. Literally, I got 2 more this week. Wow. This long after elections, because people have now been seeing me put it out there, and they're like, hey, you weren't on my ballot either. So wow. Now we have these claims. And I wanted to kind of keep my mouth shut until I had written statements and sworn affidavits, legal, sworn, notarized affidavits, which I have now. Yeah, which you showed them to me earlier. Yeah, so I have those. And this is something where my take is, I don't want this to be my story. This isn't my claims. I'm just sharing with you what citizens, dozens at this point, have written into me. Right. And I just want to investigate it and see what's going on.
Wow. So this is something that I think is on the national stage as far as this problem. Yeah. I don't know where to proceed from here. I'll be honest with you, man. It seems like more and more it just got taken away. It got taken away from us, and it's like the amount that we would need in order to combat this legally is just stocking up. And I mean, you have people. I don't know what your opinion is, or whether you even like to weigh in on things like Linwood and people like that, and throwing Pence into jail.
I've heard crazy. I was reading up a little on that yesterday because I had heard whispers this week, and I don't know the full situation, but it seems insane. Right. But a lot of 2020 seems insane. Right. I just don't know. That's all I'd say is I don't know.
So for your specific solution, what do you think it is? Do you think that there's a way forward? What would you need right now in order to bring this to the public attention?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I want, is to bring this to the public attention, because I'll be honest with you, I think the legal way forward is biased. And is not in the favor of getting to the bottom of this. Interesting. So I've sought legal advice from multiple lawyers, multiple politicians on this, and basically here's how it is in PA. Unless you have proof that the fraud or error is enough to flip the election, they don't really care. Which to me, that is what multiple sources have told me is the bottom line of it. And to me, I say, well, wait a second, without an investigation, without a court case, how are you supposed to have that proof that it's enough to flip the election? Right. And then the other issue I have with that standard is that's not a good standard. Because to me, it's look, it doesn't matter if there were 10 mistaken ballots or 10,000. the bottom line is there's a problem here that deserves to be addressed legally so it doesn't grow.
Right.
But like if there were just 10 mistaken ballots, do we wait until someday that problem grows to enough to flip an election? And then why not solve it now?
It's bureaucracy, right?
Yes.
It's just like
red tape.
Red tape. It's these people that don't really want to do any extra work.
That's
like,
right.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And they don't want to do extra work, and there's power involved, and power and money involved. So there are multiple kind of desires tugging at people in multiple directions.
Wow.
And so really to bring it back to what you said about public opinion, that's my thing is I've been posting screenshots of the people who have sent me their written statements, and I also have the affidavits now that I'm prepared to show to any legal examiner, board of elections, things like that. And I do want to get this public story out there so that in the court of public opinion, maybe then we can create enough pressure for it to be taken seriously. Whereas I think if I went into some back room at a court and talked to someone, they wouldn't take it seriously. It doesn't matter what written statements or affidavits you have.
Right.
My understanding is it's not going to happen if we go that route.
So you have to kind of foster a movement behind it, make sure that people understand that you're serious about this, and just get people on the same page as you, so it'll essentially become sensational news.
Yeah.
And they have to pay attention.
And that's the beautiful thing of freedom of speech, right? Like some people might hear that and go, "Oh, you're trying to get sensational news and like a clickbaited story." No, freedom of speech and every movement in history, whether you go to MLK or the American Revolution, was started with speech, where people got what you could call sensational news or a story that went out to the people, and then the people, the citizens, said, "Yeah, let's act on this." So like that to me is the logical way forward. And I want to be clear in regards to my election. I know Trump has come out and said things like, "I know I won," and like, "We won this election." I don't know that I won. I'm not claiming victory. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying my opponent cheated. I'm just saying we have claims of either fraud or error from dozens of citizens, and I think those deserve to be investigated by me and my opponent. I would encourage him to come alongside me and say, "Hey, it's not about me and Luke anymore. It's about, was this election secure, fair? Can it be relied on in the future?"
Now, is there any word? Does he know anything about this?
He knows. I've added him with multiple screenshots on Twitter. So he knows. He doesn't have an excuse. And I've done this multiple times. And I also went public on Pittsburgh radio, KDKA, and spoke about this. So
and no
I
response
would not.
from him.
No response. No, it's been 2 weeks at this point.
Mike
Doyle.
Mike Doyle. We're calling you out. This is what's this guy's the wrestler's name? Ric Flair Style. Woo! Let's talk, man. You can come on the podcast and defend yourself either with Luke or without. So either way you want to do it. But no, I think that's such a great idea, and I think something that maybe Trump should learn from you.
Yeah.
Is like have the opponent come alongside you and say we need to figure out whether or not this election is actually fair, because what's to say that this won't happen to him next time or somebody in his camp,
And it shouldn't be partisan when you're saying, okay, this is actually about vote integrity. And so quick side note here, actually, I posted this on Instagram, and we can delete this from the episode if you want, if it gets too into the weeds. But this is fact. Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, two A-tier Democrats who were almost at points they were in the runnings, in the lead for president when it comes to the case of Warren. They both filed a congressional written complaint 2 years ago against Dominion voting software. You can find this on Elizabeth Warren's website. I linked it on my Instagram. And she called Dominion software a threat to the integrity of elections.
Whoa.
So am I saying Dominion definitely flipped votes? No, I don't make claims like that without evidence. What I am saying is Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar 2 years ago said that it was a threat. So what should they do now?
Right.
They should come alongside Trump in a bipartisan way and say, hey, like, we don't like this guy, but he's actually saying what we said 2 years ago, and we should investigate this. Do you know how much respect that would win them from me?
Yeah.
I'd be like, dude, they're being consistent, at least.
From all of the right.
It's just legit then.
One of the things that I do enjoy about being on the right now, as far as politically, when somebody does do something right, we aren't shunning them away because of who they are. And I mean, we've even agreed with AOC on little things here and there, little things. But AOC, Tulsi Gabbard has become kind of a new Democrat hero.
Yes.
And I think that it just goes to show, like, we're not in this for the clout or for the personal brand of somebody
or the tribal identity.
The tribal identity.
We have to look past that.
That's a great way
past
to put
the
it.
R and the D.
Yeah.
A good example is, and I've used this one frequently, when Barack Obama called in a gutsy strike on someone named Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. I mean, you can look back at my old Facebook records. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. I didn't come out like, it's like when Trump signs 3 historic Middle Eastern deals and brings Korean peace, no one can stand up and clap for that.
Right.
Like, they can't just say, okay, we don't like him, but good job.
Right. It's the ultimate bitterness.
It's ultimate. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And alienation, right? Polarized, like magnetic opposites.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting dynamic that we're getting into, and something else that I wanted to talk to you about was this idea of where the right is going. I know we touched on it last time we were here, but so much has happened. I'm seeing more and more people being I guess okay or being willing to start a third party.
Yeah.
And that to me, I was talking to somebody about it the other day. I don't know how somebody with 33% of the votes or can lead the country. And so what's your opinion on that? Do you think it's that time?
Yeah, I don't. So I think it might be time to start a third and fourth party, but definitely not just a third party. And so I don't know if I said this last time, but basically the way the numbers break down is really simple. So like if the Republicans split and join, and let's say you have then conservative, Republican, and Democrat. The Democrats are always going to win because the Republicans will be split, like 20% and 20%.
That's such a good point.
But if you split conservative, Republican, liberal, and Democrat, then you have 4 parties. Then all of a sudden, not only does it become viable for one of those 4 to win, but those 4 have to then make alliances and intermingle with each other in a way that I really like.
Right.
Because then it's like, okay, now conservatives and Republicans have to learn to work together, or liberals, or like center left and center right, have to learn to work together against the more extreme groups. And I like that type of dynamic, but a 3-party system, to me, all that does is feed power to the one larger party.
I didn't even think of it that way. That's true, because it's not like we're going to gain more people if we break off into the Patriot movement or the Patriot Party. We're just going to lose. It's going to diminish by half at least.
Yep.
So wow, that's phenomenal. Where do you think this is going now for you personally? Then I'll bring us back to there. Where do you see? Are you going to run again? I'll say
absolutely.
That.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pennsylvania, as well as I believe most of the Union, is going to be redistricted following the census of 2020. So the redistricting process does kind of throw a promising wrench into the mix, where it's like we don't know what seats are even going to exist. In it should happen maybe around May, but we're not sure. So we are quite confident that PA will lose a congressional seat. So I said earlier we had 18 seats in PA. I think it's going to go down to 17.
Wow.
But so it's just like which seat is going to be cut, and then I would also consider state house or state senate. But it's like what will those districts look like? So I'm just trying to figure that out right now.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm there for you. If you want campaign videos, whatever you want me to do, I'll vlog from behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Because I do think it's important. And I'm here in Jersey, right? So Governor Murphy is killing me. He's raising the minimum wage here.
Yeah.
And
what's he raising it to?
12.
Okay, that's a good bit.
Yeah.
Going to put a lot of people out of work.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of people that are going out of work
and
replaced
so,
with machines.
I'm glad to see that there are people who have the right ideas running in places close to here, because somebody's got to influence this Murphy guy, and right now it's just Cuomo influencing him, and it's bothering the crap out of me. All right, can you break down the minimum wage for the sake of my podcast? Because how does raising the minimum wage actually create more poor people?
Yeah. Okay. So it's this is one that I had to really dig into and investigate, because I didn't like the idea on its face, but I had to find out why.
Right.
So it's actually fairly clean cut and simple. If you raise the minimum wage to, let's say, the number I hear a lot floated is 15, but you said Murphy said 12.
Yeah.
From what is it, $8, $8.25 an hour? All of a sudden, a lot of these production jobs, these food service jobs, these things that right now are what your kind of lower middle class survive on, all of a sudden, for employers, it becomes cheaper to replace those workers with machines. Like literally with automated machines. We see this happening actually. If you go to a modern, one of the newer McDonald's, you see that there's order windows. Panera has fewer employees. They did recent cutbacks because they've got order windows with touch screens, and you don't need a person. You don't need a cashier anymore.
Right.
So when it becomes now upgrading to those systems for some of these older stores or for new branches that are opening, it is expensive, but once companies start crunching the numbers and they go, wait, let's see, $12 an hour over a year, or let's just say $50,000 up front for this machine that can replace a person permanently.
Right.
All of a sudden, all of those people start losing their jobs.
Right.
That we see this with things like truck drivers, when automated cars are now on the brink with Elon Musk and Tesla and Ford's talking about this. A lot of this automation becomes cheaper is the short answer.
So for somebody that's a skeptic or a critic of this, and they say like, what about the people that need these jobs in order to survive and feed their families, you know?
Yeah.
What if they need a $12 an hour job that was paying them $8 an hour at first? What about them?
So I think you could negotiate to raising the minimum wage, but raising it at a less extreme margin. I mean, raising it by 33% from 8 to 12 that's a huge jump. And so there is some truth to the idea that that the cost of living has raised significantly and wages have been fairly stagnant, or at least they have not matched. They really haven't been stagnant, but they haven't matched the inflation.
Right.
That's true. So I'm not against like any raise of the minimum wage, but I think it has to be tasteful, so to speak. It has to be wise, and you have to crunch numbers and find out what is going to be actually livable while still keeping these people employed.
Right.
Because part of what helps these people be employed at all is the free market, is people being able to have competitive jobs and employ employees.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Peter Schiff on this, and he gave a really unique perspective. It's a little bit harsh, but I think that it rings true just as a general principle, not about a specific person, but in general. If you don't have enough skills to get yourself a job that's above minimum wage, then your priority should be to learn those skills before you apply to get a job that is more than minimum wage.
It's an interesting take. It's true.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we pay millions and millions of dollars a year in colleges to get those skills so that we don't go in and work for minimum wage.
Yeah.
You know, I think somebody who maybe is falling on hard times, they have to be able to prioritize those things, not because the government is bad or anything, or not because the government is good, but because we shouldn't ask the government to become so involved in our finances that they can tell us which jobs we can and can't take, right?
That's right.
So for me, it becomes once again a question of morality. Do we want this government imposing their morality on us?
Yes.
Or do we want to have the freedom to say, hey, I'll take a freaking $3 an hour job cutting grass for somebody, you know, if it's all I have.
Yes.
You know, and at least those $3 I have, then I can add up and move forward and grow. But for me, it's become very weird kind of watching, specifically in these kind of areas where it's very city-like.
Yes.
Seeing people feel like they're entitled to $15 an hour, just because they have to work. It's like people have always worked for the entire time that we've been on this earth. Why would it change now?
No, that's a really good point. And I'll say this, everyone's experience is different. I started off, my first two jobs that I pretty much started simultaneously as a 15, 16-year-old were mowing lawns and lifeguarding.
And those jobs,
and you know, like they're kind of monotonous, right?
Right.
And minimum wage, right?
Right.
And but then I quickly worked my way up to where if you're mowing lawns at a good rate, you're making more than minimum wage. You're making $20 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you're a good lifeguard, you become a manager. And this isn't like I wasn't a particularly hardworking kid. I was just a 17-year-old who wanted money.
Right.
So there's that take. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. This is a really weird dichotomy that I see. People who want ultimately socialism is what we're talking about here.
Right.
People who want socialism want to stand against, on one hand, they stand against big corporations abusing people. Yep. And I can hear that to a certain extent. I'm like, you're right. There is abuse that happens. So they're like, big corporations and CEOs, bad. But big government and powerful local governments who are in bed with big corporations, good. So it's like, what makes me think that when you're wearing the shirt that says CEO, you're a bad guy, but when you're making the same money wearing a shirt that says government exec, all of a sudden you're a good guy who's trustworthy? Like, if they hate monopolies, why make the government the biggest monopoly of all time, who, by the way, also controls the police and the military?
That's my biggest what do you call it, pet peeve with the left, really, right now. And I'm not even talking about hardcore leftists, because they're willing to admit they want Marxism, they're willing to admit they want to take it all down. But people who are just nominally left, they just are because they live here and that's what's popular. They don't see the contradiction between saying, you know, I hate corporations and they take advantage of us, but also I want my government to control everything I do.
Yeah.
You know, they don't see how that's
making
clashing.
the government a corporation.
Right.
It's more power than a corporation.
Right.
You know?
And that falls also in line with I lost my train of thought. Anyway.
It's okay.
But yeah, no, I totally understand that. And I think that's a super important thing for people to realize earlier in life. Like, you can't expect to get older and have the government kind of push the minimum wage so you never have to, you know, get a better job.
Right.
So I want to take this back. I want to wind it down. We're running on half hour now. What is your message? What did you come here to really push forward and let my 5 YouTube followers know?
Actually, so this fits well with what we were just talking about, which is, and I know that as I am, you're a Christ follower.
Yes.
And so it comes down to, I think, people wanting the government or some other force to correct human nature.
Yes.
And they forget that, like, just like a corrupt CEO is a corrupt human who's subject to human nature, similarly, your mayor or your socialist governor or whoever it may be also has human nature that can be corrupted, and the government isn't gonna fix that. Like, we're looking for this utopia where the government fixes it and we just elect the right people and then we're good.
Right.
That's like saying just choose the right CEO and then we're good. Like, no, that's not true. Neither of those is true. Like, what we need, checks and balances, and ultimately the final check and balance, I believe, is our place before God.
Amen.
But then in an imperfect sense, it can be a balanced government where we actually see that people have the right to push back on one another. And we were talking about, right, the 4-party system versus a 3-party or a 2-party system. We have to negotiate with each other. We have to talk. We have to not be so polarized, so alienated, and we have to find a way to find some sort of group identity between all of us, and then we can argue about our differences within that identity.
Absolutely.
That's what I think is important.
And I also think that you bring up a great point, because without those conversations, there's no growth made. And one of the biggest things that's stopping that is censorship.
Yes.
And censorship of specific ideas, not even of certain people, but if you say the wrong idea on a social media platform, you're canned.
Yeah.
And to me, that in itself is stopping America from progressing forward.
I agree.
So on that note, follow Censor You movement.
Yes, yeah, he started an awesome movement. I was supposed to be there, but I think I was on Air Force orders or something.
That's
but
all right, man.
Next time, seriously, keep me posted. I want to be there.
I for sure will. You know, we're going to try and continue to grow. Morgan and I have some stuff we're thinking about. We want to take it right to Silicon Valley.
Yes,
some stuff
yeah.
So,
I used to live in California. So,
yeah?
Yeah. I was out there on Air Force orders.
You can show us around.
Yeah, it's a good place. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming out,
Hey, you too, man. Thank you.
For real. Always a pleasure, man. And make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You know, keep us going, because YouTube is really cracking down on me right now. They're really starting to figure out what I'm doing. And so if you want to support that, go to my patreon.com/angelkiros. Make sure you follow Luke. I'll leave his link, all of his links in the description. And, you know, just support this guy as much as you can, because he's doing the Lord's work. Let me tell you. Thank you, guys. Peace.
See ya.